Does a better design forcibly cost more? And if so, is it worth it? You see, I have to develop this rather boring project because it's very standard in a way. I'm very constrained by the council community guidelines. And I'm thinking, okay, if this is what I want to develop or what I have to develop, how can I still add value to it? Because ultimately, this is what I'm all about. I mean, architects, we are not commodities. We're not all the same. We're not, at least I'm not just thinking I'm gonna do an appropriate plan with good proportions. That's already good, but I want to do one over. So let me take you through it. The way this works is I have to do 4 units, and I'm gonna draw something here. Our project is very basic. It's more or less like this. Let's say that this is 12 meters deep. Don't worry, I will put the conversion of these numbers in feet on the screen. And it has a pitched roof because that's what the council wants. Now, traditionally, if this is more or less of a section, if I'm building 4 units and I have 12 meters deep, I would most likely build something that looks like this, because I cannot go any higher than 7 meters here. That's the height of my smallest neighbor here. That is 7 meters. This is called an axonometric, so there's no vanishing points. So my lines, if I'm drawing this correctly, should be parallel rather than going into a vantage point. So it's not a perspective. These are my 4 floors, actually 3.5. What I would do, and the basic scenario would be, okay, this whole thing would be apartment 1, maybe this and a little bit over here, that could be all apartment 1 or unit 1, and then this one can be unit 2. Let's get another. So this one here would be unit 2. Now the problem with this layout is that I find it to be too boring. Here we have parking 1, parking 2, garden would be here, and then this one would have the garden, this one would not have a garden, but it would have a view onto the garden, which is just removes value from that garden. I mean, the good thing about a garden is for it to be private. You don't want your neighbors from above to see what you're doing in your garden. And this is already bothering me. I'm not liking that idea too much. So again, this idea of how can I add value, this is how it plays out. I started looking into other architects that I really like, and I started remembering what they did to create space. So what do other architects do to add value to their projects? Well, they play with the space. Let's see, look at this project from Dutch office MVRDV. This is the project I wanted to show you. And look at this, how they play with this space. That is already completely different to what I'm proposing. It's all the same unit actually, but the quality of the space is just significantly better. It's not just a stacking of one after the other. You see, here you have an underground level, so this street is at this level, and then you come off, and this is this level on the back. So they already gained like a technical space here, and that's fine. And they have a staircase here, yeah, great. Now their first level is here, and they climb through these stairs, like that. And then you have this massive space with a double height, and I would imagine it's a sort of living room or something. And then this over here coming off, and a person here would be about this height. So you can imagine, there you go, that's more or less like a child there, but that's fine. Okay, you can imagine the feeling you get out of all this, the massiveness. Again, a very interesting visual connection out there as well here. And the space you have from here to here, you have a series of different spaces, one after the other. You have this height 1, this height 2, This one could be more or less like H1, and this one is, yeah, I would say more or less the same as, yeah, it's the same as height 2. It's interesting because you're creating a sequence of spaces which are just, then if you had this would be the base case. And that would be just boring architecture, and that's exactly what I want to avoid. And this is only one example. That's MVRDV, thank you for that. Another one of my favorite architects, RCR or RCR, I don't know, RCR, Architectus, yeah, Architectus. And they're great as well, I love them. I absolutely love them. I went to see Carmen Pigem give a lecture here in Brussels once. I was so lucky. And this is another project I already mentioned in this channel. This is called La Casa Entre Muros, and look at the quality of this space. It has nothing to do with a traditional boring apartment block, and that's what I have to avoid at all costs, I believe. Stop. I think at this point I have to interject a bit. I think I'm getting a bit carried away with my enthusiasm here. There's nothing inherently wrong with the standard height. It's just that if we have the opportunity to explore something else, I think we should take it. And that's what this video is all about. I think we should explore offering different atmospheres within a living space and see how much that would cost extra, if anything, and then consider if that is worth it. That's the premise of this whole video. Okay, that's it. Pedro, take it away. Look at that section. It's beautiful. And again, you have different quality spaces. The street comes off at this level, and then the garden is off at this level. So it's more or less the same level. Up, it comes down like that. You have the first. And then you have a platform here, another one here, another level there. Here you have a slight difference of levels. Here you have a bench of some sort, and this is the roof. And here you have the glazing, right? So you can look out. And this is a person. I can just trace it. So another person would be here. Okay, so you can see already the interaction, the different spaces, the different heights. This is another height, this is another height. So the quality of the space becomes all that much richer. Here you have it. So again, it's avoiding that monotonous slab, one on top of the other. And that's what I want to avoid. So how can we apply that to our project? And that's what I've been thinking. While avoiding the vis-a-vis into the garden from the other unit, so that we can have private gardens. Now, another way of going at this problem, would be the straightforward one, the easy one, would be, why don't we split the unit like this? And we're gonna have this one here. The unit 1, and then this one here be unit 2. This would avoid the vis-a-vis problem because these people will look into here and this one would look into there, but then I'm facing a parking space, so it's a dull area, and then I'm creating a new problem. How do I go from here all the way to there and from here to here? So that solution, I think, is not the best. Now comes in what we saw from the other architects. And I think that this is where it becomes interesting. You see, we can actually do something a lot more interesting. We can try and, whoops. What I'm gonna do now is Ground floor, this would be 1 unit with the garden. Fine. Now I want to add some more quality to the space. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have this space here be part of this one. And then this other space, I can bring it off further out, like that, if I need to. And have all this would be unit 1, where I have this double height area here, double height there. And here I will also have a double height here. So basically, I'm going from a base case where I have, let's call this one the base case, with the unit Oh, and by the way, this is the way an architect sketches. Sketches are not meant to be beautiful, they're meant to evoke ideas, they're meant to communicate. So if I'm communicating with you and you're understanding what I'm trying to tell you through my drawings, then that sketch is perfect, doesn't need any more. So now I have a quality space here. Well, here you have a quality space and another quality space here. And this also allows me to have the living room or the main level of the above unit on the first level and have enough space, because here I don't have enough space to have my living room, kitchen and dining room. Whilst here I do. That's why pushing this far is a good option. And then this idea of adding value and costing more because we're adding value, that could certainly be true. Here we're gonna have more staircases probably per unit than if we went on a standard piling of apartments one on top of the other. And then the volume is going to be bigger, so that would mean that heating up these spaces is an additional cost. Now, I'm simply repeating what I heard previous clients tell me when I'm designing similar spaces. And these are the usual points I get against me in a way. That doesn't necessarily mean I agree with these. I mean, of course I agree, if there's more volume, then you have to heat up more space. But that's not necessarily bad. What is the metric? Again, a place is going to be sustainable if it's livable and you're enjoying it. There's a balance to be found here. And then there's another counterpoint from this particular client who can say, look, Pedro, I'm trying to develop the most standard units so that we can sell them to a profit and get rid of it and move on to the next project. And that's a valid point. I do get it. And at this point, I'd like to point out that on my previous video, I said something like, it doesn't matter because my client doesn't really watch my videos. Well, it surprised me to find out that he did. He did watch that video. He sent me an email the next day, finding the video quite interesting, so it's all good. I'm still on the project. He took it not lightly, because I didn't say anything against the project, but he took it as I meant it to be taken. He understood my concerns about the project, but he also understood that I'm going to give it my best shot, which is exactly what I'm doing now. So again, going back to this idea of adding value and probably for it costing more, and him saying, look, I just want to get it done with and move on to the next project. It's a valid point, as I said, but we need to understand that we only have 4 units here. If these 4 units are all unique and special, it's going to be far easier to sell them, because it's easy to find only 4 buyers for very special units. When you're into real estate, what adds value to a property is its uniqueness. So the more unique the project is, the unit is, the more you can demand, but up to a reasonable point, of course. And I think that the quality of spaces we're creating here, particularly in this area, which is a relatively expensive one, I think that that will add value and that will command a higher price, probably. At least we are creating a better space, and that's what I have to worry about. But again, I think that there's power in proposing different quality spaces. Now, let's see how the client reacts. Is he gonna go for this option, which seemingly looks to be more expensive? I really don't think it is that more expensive, but I think it is that much more intriguing, that much more valuable as a space, that much richer. The atmosphere we're creating here is something completely different than a regular apartment, which is something I'm really wanting to create with my architecture, and also something I want to give. So I really hope that the client goes for this option. And now that I know that he's watching my videos, I hope I have managed to convince him. Okay, but we'll just see you on the next one. Whew, okay.